Today we will be looking at proofs with parallel lines. Throughout this video we will introduce several different proofs that deal with the properties of parallel lines and the angles that result. First, I need you to get out your study guide for Unit 1.3. I need to get you to get your proofs with parallel lines worksheet out that you got on Friday from your teacher. And I need you to get out your list that you've been working with in class the past few weeks. I'll give you a couple seconds to get that out, and then we'll get started with question number 1. Okay, looking at your proofs with parallel lines worksheet. We're going to be looking at question number 1 first. If you notice on this question, we have our traditional 2-column proof with our statements and our reasons. In this case, they're going to want us to find our reasons, and they gave us our statement. If we look at our given, it says that line A is parallel to line B, so we'll go ahead and mark that with our arrows on our picture. Then they tell us that angle 12 is congruent to angle 2, so we'll mark that on our picture as well. And then they want us to prove that angle C is parallel to angle D. So looking at our first line, it's a line that was given to us, but if we notice, A and B are parallel. So, and then we know that it says that angle 2 is congruent to angle 10. If we know that A and B are congruent to angle 12, or line A and line B are parallel to each other, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 10, then we know that we have a set of corresponding angles. So if we look at our list, we have if parallel lines, then corresponding angles are congruent. Right. Looking at step 1 and step 2, we notice that angle 12 is congruent to angle 2, angle 2 is congruent to angle 10, so then angle 12 is congruent to angle 10. That is our transitive property. So now that we've proven in our statements and on our picture that angle 12 and angle 10 are congruent to each other, we now want to prove that line C is parallel to line D. And because angle 12 and angle 10 are corresponding angles, we have if corresponding angles congruent, then we have parallel lines. Right. Take a second to look at that, see how we did that. If you have any questions about how we got any of our steps, whether it's transitive or whatnot, please come to class with questions, and your teacher will gladly answer them for you. Now I'd like you to go to question number 3, and we will start that one shortly. Now looking at question number 3, we have our given, which is ray AG is parallel to ray CE. And it tells us that ray AB is parallel to ray CD. Notice that our first set of parallel lines we marked with 1 arrow, our second set of parallel lines we marked with 2 arrows, denoting that they're 2 different sets of parallel lines. We also see that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, and we'll mark that on our picture as well. Then we see that they want us to prove that ray CD bisects angle ECF on our picture. So again, we're going to use a 2-column proof. This time, if you notice, at step 4, they do not give us our statement, they give us our reason. But the rest of the time, they want us to find the reason. Looking at step 1, that's what was given to us. We notice that ray AG is parallel to CE. So we have our 2 parallel rays. And in step 2, it says that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Because those 2 rays are parallel to each other, We know that angle 1 and angle 2 are corresponding angles. So we have if parallel lines, then corresponding angles are congruent. Now looking at step number 3. We have angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. We know that angle ray AB and ray CD are parallel. So therefore we know that angle 2 and angle 3 are corresponding angles. So therefore we have if parallel lines and corresponding angles are congruent. Now they give us our reason and want us to find our statement. We have our transitive property here. So if we look back at steps 2 and step 3, we notice that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. Therefore, angle 1 must be congruent to angle 3. It has to be in that order in order for you to use the transitive property. Now if we look at step 5, we notice that between step 4 and step 5, all we did was switch angle 1 and angle 3. Therefore, if we go to our list, we can use symmetric property. Now going to step 6 and looking at our picture, we know that angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. Therefore, and then if we also look at step 5, we notice that the only thing that changed was that angle 1 is now angle 4. And if we look back at step 1, we notice that they already gave us that congruence property. So therefore we have substitution. Since we've proven that angle 3 and angle 4 are congruent, we can now prove that CD bisects angle ECF, and that is if our angles are congruent, then it bisects. Take a second to look over this problem. If you have any questions about any steps, again, please come with questions, and your teacher will gladly answer them in class. All right, let's move on to question number 10. It's a couple pages over in your proofs with parallel lines packet. All right, looking at question number 10, we notice that, first thing we notice is that they do not give us our two-column proof. Therefore, we're going to have to create it ourselves. So the first thing I want you to do is draw your two-column proof. We have our statements on one side. We have our reasons on the other. And we'll start with step 1. Step 1 is what is given to us. And what they gave us was that L is parallel to K. So we'll mark that on our picture. And K is parallel to J. Now if we look at these two as being parallel, these two sets of lines being parallel to each other, and we look at our angles that they have marked for us on our picture, we notice that angle 2 and angle 4 are congruent to each other. And the reason that they are congruent to each other is because if our lines are parallel lines, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. Take a second to think about that. Alright. If you look back at our proof, we were wanting to prove whether or not angle 4 and angle 3 are supplementary, so therefore you know we are going to have to set up an equation that something is going to have to equal 180. Well, anytime we have an equation we need to have the equal sign and not the congruent sign. So we need to change our previous statement so that we have an equal sign. So we have the measure of angle 4 is now equal to the measure of angle 2. We only use the congruent sign when we're talking about the picture. Anytime we're using an equation, we need to use the equals. So if we look at our list, we have if, congruent, then equals. Now that we know that those two are equal to each other, we look back at our picture and we notice that angle 2 and angle 3 are a linear pair. So therefore we know that the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180 degrees. Therefore, if they are a linear pair, then the sum of the angles is equal, or the sum of the angles is 180 degrees. If our sum of our angles is 180 degrees, and we know that angle 2 is also equal to angle 4, we can substitute in angle 4 plus the measure of angle 3 is equal to 180, and that is substitution. Then we have our last step. If the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 3 is equal to 180, then angle 4 and angle 3 are supplementary, and that is if sum of our angles is 180, then they are supplementary. And we have just proved that angle 4 and angle 3 are supplementary to each other. Notice in this proof we use 6 steps, but with most proofs there are multiple ways to solve them. I'd like to challenge you. There is a way to prove this same proof with 4 steps. I'd like for you to try that on your own at home and bring any solutions that you have come up with to class, and we will discuss them at that point in time. And if you have any questions about how we came up with any of our steps for this proof that we did together, please come with those questions as well. You have a practice problem on your study guide that I'd like for you to complete. If you have any questions after trying that one on your own, again, please come with questions to class, and your teacher will gladly answer them for you. I hope you have a good weekend, and see you on Monday.